And it is truly my pleasure and honor to be introducing Sri Bankar Royji for this session. I mean, he is a stalwart of in the sector. I doesn't really need any introduction, but just so that everybody knows him here. He's from the Doon School and St. Stephen's College. He started the Barefoot College in the village of Tilonia in Ajmer, Rajasthan. The college is about improving the quality of life of the poorest of the poor communities and the world, and across the world even. It is about demystifying technology and decentralizing decision making to the hands of poor communities, especially illiterate rural women, to manage, control, and own solar technology, and thus allowing them to live with dignity and self respect. Decentralized and demystified low cost energy solutions have to be tried on a low scale, taking their communities into confidence. This is a very strong vision put forth by Barefoot College and Pankaj Royji, so that, and also to ensure that these are scaled up to reach a large cross section of marginalized people who can afford it. Without wasting any time, and I know that most of us are here very eager to listen to what Bankar Royji has to say, I would really invite him to speak for 10-15 minutes, give his inputs, interventions, and vision as to what energy deficit for Indian or any developing countries would mean, and what could be, the possible directions in which we could move forward, including and integrating, for example, how Barefoot College does illiterate rural women, and who else could be also engaged in this process, so that we move to a better non-deficit energy surplus kind of a state. So over to you, Bankarji. And because this is an open forum, we would really request all of you to participate after Bankarji has finished his input and ask questions. This is really a not a one-time opportunity, but a really good opportunity to talk to Bankarji. Over to you, Bankarji. आप म्यूट पे हैं. अब ठीक है.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, clear.
Right. Mandvi, since you have given me very little time, I shall be provocative.
No. You have 10-15 minutes.
That's very little time on such a large topic.
Okay.
Anyway, I think it is of some concern for all of us that what the government publicly states that most of the villages today in India have been electrified. If you look at what's happening on the ground, that is not really the case. Because if you're looking at revenue villages in India, yes, maybe the government is somewhat correct. But if you're looking at kasbas, looking at dhanis, looking at smaller communities, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, marginalized OBC communities, there is still a large consumption of kerosene, of candles, of wood for lighting. So my proposal is that if you want to decrease the deficit between what government says and what actually happens on the ground, we have to have a relook at the way we are doing things, or the way we are actually implementing some of the programs. I think, we sometimes don't respect Mahatma Gandhi enough. Mahatma Gandhi said, the answer is not mass production, but production by the masses. We have to decentralize systems right down to people who can own it, manage it, control it, repair it, maintain it. Centralized systems, transmission lines, electric power systems, where you are dependent on an engineer 60 kilometers away for repairing and maintenance, is not an answer. You have to go right down to the last man, as Mahatma Gandhi said. And what does this last man want? He wants a 40-watt panel or a 20-watt panel or a solar lantern, which is affordable, which he can afford to repair, maintain, and buy. And he needs light. He doesn't need power for television. I'm talking about the very rural poor. He doesn't need power for television, doesn't need for a washing machine, doesn't need for, he just needs some power for light, for fan, for a radio, and that is easily affordable today. So if you are looking at reducing the energy deficit in the country, one of the major thrusts of the Barefoot College has been to train women. Now, the Prime Minister looked at our program and he called these illiterate rural grandmothers who we are training with funds from the Ministry of External Affairs as solar mamas. These solar mamas come from non-electrified villages all over the world, including India. And using sign language, without using the written or spoken word, this grandmother, who has never been outside a village in her life, comes to Tilonia for 6 months, and she learns only through sight and sound how to repair, fabricate, maintain, install solar home lighting systems. She comes like a grandmother and goes back home like a tiger. And she actually baffles all the men because the men said, "Ha, le jao sab, inko mela ko le jao, kuch kaam ka nahi hai." And when she comes back, she solar electrifies in front of everyone, the whole village today. And everyone is gawking and the jaws drop because this woman went as a useless person and now she came back as a tiger and a grandmother. So this Solar Mama program today, the Barefoot College has actually extended to 96 countries around the world, and there are 3,000 solar mamas today who have solar electrified over 50,000 houses. That combined power, if you put them together, is 1.4 gigawatts of electricity, which is almost what a nuclear power plant generates. So what are we talking about? We're talking about decentralized system, demystified system, right down to the village level, where the woman has total control over the fabrication, installation, repair, and maintenance of systems. So today, I think you have a different mindset to reducing the energy deficit today. And I think we have to look at it outside the box. For 60 years, it's the men who have had their say. Today, the time for the women have come. They have broken the glass ceiling. They have actually shown it is possible that they can do whatever, not only whatever, they can do more than a man can do, because this woman will never leave the village. Whereas if you train a man or a young boy, the moment he or she has a skill, he leaves the village within days looking for a job in a city. So what do you have in a village? Very old women and very young people. So why don't you train women and make them, and they're there all the time, they live there all the time, they have no problems in staying there, and they have actually looked after the solar systems. So we had this woman from Afghanistan who came. For the first time in the history of Afghanistan, they allowed women to come to the Barefoot College. And we made an exception and asked, and the community said, no, we can't only have the woman, you have to take the man along also. So we took the husband along also and brought them to the Barefoot College. Of course, the woman was more intelligent than the man. So when she went back and solar electrified the whole village in Afghanistan, the first ever village to be solar electrified in Afghanistan, she went very quietly and sat with the men. And the men said, what do you think you're doing? You should be sitting 1 kilometer away with the other women there. Why are you sitting with us? And her reply was profound. She said, today, I'm not a woman, I'm an engineer. And I have solar electrified your whole village today. So you have to show me the respect, not treat me like a woman, but treat me the respect that you give to engineers. These stories are all over the world. Grandmothers who have actually shown, demonstrated what the possible is possible. I've spoken for 10 minutes, Mandvi. Now I'd like some questions if possible. Anyone?
Thank you so much, Pankaj. That was very generous of you to keeping it to 10 minutes. I know everybody would like to also listen to you more, but I think that will come through in the question answer session. So we have the first question. There is Jayashree Ravindran, and she really wants to know how can she enroll for the course.
Is she a grandmother?
That's a qualification requirement. Sorry, not.
The criteria
Yes.
is you have to be a grandmother, and grandmothers these days are very young. Between 35 and 45, you become a grandmother in Africa. May not be in India, but there. You have to be a grandmother. You have to be someone who can't read and write. You have to be someone who's never left a village in your life. And you have to be able to come for 6 months at least. Because remember, it takes 5 years for a university to produce a solar engineer. The Barefoot College produces a solar engineer in 6 months, and that too a woman who's never know how to read and write. So this has actually made a vast difference in the mindset of communities. When I've been to about 60 countries around the world and gone to select grandmothers. And every time I select a grandmother, the young people say, "What are you taking this useless woman for? Take us, because we will be." I said, "No, let her come back in 6 months and we'll see." When this grandmother comes back and solar electrifies the village, the youths are the first ones who say, "Please train me to be a solar engineer." So it's the first time that a grandmother is training a young boy how to become a solar engineer. This is a complete reversal of how the mindset works here. So I think if you're a grandmother, please come to the Barefoot College. We'll train you as a solar engineer. Anyone? Open question, open invitation.
Yes, I'm sure a lot of people want to take that up. But I also had one question, Bankarji. There is unemployment on rise, especially after COVID. We've seen a lot of people, also men, have lost their jobs. Also women have gone back to care work, even if they were, engaged in some kind of work earlier. So how do we, and maybe they are not in the villages, how do one involve them in this whole entire energy transition and economic empowerment?
The biggest obstacle today, Mandvi, is this whole fetish about certification. If you can look beyond the paper qualifications that we give so much importance to, because you see today the education system has produced paper qualified engineers who are unemployable. They don't know the subject. But if you actually put more emphasis on practical skills, if you put a solar 20 pieces of a solar lantern in front of a PhD from Stanford who has got a theoretical knowledge, he can't put a solar lantern together. But if you put it in front of the grandmother who's been for 6, she'll put it in half an hour, I'll put it together and make it work. So who do you want? Someone who's gone to Stanford and got a fancy degree? Or do you want a grandmother who can actually make a solar lantern and make it work in a village? Make a choice.
Choice is pretty clear.
No, it's not very clear. It's very hazy because lots of people want the Stanford man, not the grandmother.
Yeah. A lot of people would go for the educated, qualified. Yeah.
Correct. And today in India, they are unemployable. I've seen people who got fancy degrees who don't know their subject with their hands. They don't work with the hands anymore. Am I saying something which is not acceptable to lots of people?
Could be.
Anyone, please challenge me. I'd be very happy to, if someone wakes up and says, "I challenge you, this is not correct." Please prove me wrong.
No, I mean, it is true that hands-on work gets very little value in our country and in our society than qualified person.
I am not hearing any questions. Is that too much? Have I said too much?
No. So there is a question. There is a question from Anand. He wants to know, did you face political resistance and rage since you started so long back? And what is your source? What is your source of energy besides sunlight?
Every time you do something new, always there will be someone who will object. If everyone is for my project, there is something wrong. There has to be someone who objects. some class of people who says this is not true, prove me wrong. Today, everything you do is a political act. You make a solar lantern, a grandmother makes a solar lantern, please consider that not technology, but a political act. It is an act of a woman showing that it is possible for her to become an engineer without going through educational qualification. And there are millions of people today in India who don't have an educational qualification, but they have extraordinary practical skills. And we must respect that, apply that on a large scale. Today, of course, there was great resistance from every village I went to select a grandmother in these 60 countries in Africa, the Pacific, Latin America, Southeast Asia. Everywhere there was objection because they were saying, why are you choosing a woman? Because I say a woman has the capacity and the competence to be able to prove they can become a solar engineer like any man. And the opportunity the Barefoot College gives is to people like that. But the political powers that be always want to select someone who is either a relative of theirs or someone who is a part of the family. And I, of course, objected to that. So I've had great resistance from lots of people from all quarters. But that hasn't stopped me from selecting these women from 96 countries all over the world. And I think it's become a success story for the Ministry of External Affairs. So nowadays, when my course opens, the Ministry of External Affairs opens the course, for only 40 people, I have about 10 ambassadors saying, please, I want to send a woman right there to Tilonia right now because the pressure is on too much on me. So now I don't have to advertise. I just have to say, Solar Mamas of the Prime Minister, I have 40 slots, please tell me. And I get it filled up within a month. Not a problem.
And what is your source of energy? He wants to know. He wants to.
Can you imagine a nobody comes to Tilonia and becomes an extraordinary person in 6 months? What more can you want? You see a person changing in front of your eyes, becoming a nobody to a yes body, becoming someone who is depressed, who is down and out, who has lost confidence. And now after 6 months, you see she's like a tiger. She was willing to take anyone on today, and she couldn't give a damn. And that is what you need. That is what development's all about. You can't wait for 5 years. You can do it in 6 months today, just now.
Yeah. Okay, another question. Nikhil Soria wants to know.
Who's Nikhil Soria? Can I see him?
Yes. Young.
Nikhil Soria, where are you?
Yeah.
Hi, Nikhil. You volunteer. All right, tell me.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to ask your question, Nikhil?
Yes, sir. Sir, can we make solar panels locally, and can we recycle them?
The solar panels are made indigenously by about 17, 18 Indian companies. But the only problem is size. If you're looking for the poorest of the poor, they only need a 20-watt panel and 2 lights and a fan, and maybe a solar lantern, which is for 3,000 rupees. Today, there are Chinese lanterns which are flooding the Indian market, which are very cheap, very inexpensive, and very poor quality. So solar is taking a bit of a hit because people saying, nahi sahab, hame nahi chahiye, humne dekh liya, solar lantern maine dekh liya. But the solar lantern's quality is very poor. So centralized system is not the answer. Decentralized household systems is finally the long-term answer, because you can blame nobody. If it is not working, it's your fault. You can't blame an engineer 60 kilometers away that it's not working, because we have trained you to look after the mid. So if you solar electrify a village, you will find that the consumption of kerosene is 0. But if you go to an electrified village of the government, you will find the consumption of kerosene is the same, because no one believes that you will get 24/7 power. At least you have power cuts for 6 to 8 hours every day, at night or in the morning. Yet you call it electrified village, but yet you have 6 to 7 hours of power cuts. During that period of power cut, this is where your solar lantern or your solar panel will give you the light that you need. So you don't have to spend money on kerosene. You have to be able to diversify in such a way that you get 24/7 with solar power supplementing what you need. Have I answered your question, Nikhil?
Sir, yes. And sir, recycling, it.
Recycling, we haven't got a convincing answer for that, Nikhil. I think we still have to work on that. But the life of the solar panel is 25 years. So the problem is not solar panels as much as the batteries, because the batteries only last for 5 years. The recycling of batteries is a major issue. It's a pollutant. So that is what we have to address a bit more seriously. And we haven't come up with a convincing low-cost answer yet.
Pranav has his hand raised. Pranav, you want to ask a question?
Where's Pranav? Can I see him?
Sir, so
there you are. Okay, Pranav, tell me.
So in case of solar panel, there was one question I had. That means I was planning to set up in few areas. So there was one question that the cost of the solar panel takes the recovering time taken for installation of cost of solar panel is that means 25 years, and that means what you call the electricity that means the power generated by solar panel and the cost of installing. It takes around 25 years to recover that cost. So how is it possible, and what is the scope of getting the CSR funding for the poor section of the society, for the low income groups?
I don't know if this is right across the board in India, but once you electrify your house, you have to pay a standard rate whether you get electricity or not. Is that correct in many parts of India? That you have to stay a standard rate for electric connections as soon as you install them in a village. So there are many people today I know of who are disconnecting the electricity connection because you have 7-8 hours of power cut, and yet you're paying a standard rate, which is uneconomical and just not worth keeping. So now if you go for 20-watt panels, which are about 9,000 rupees, and you go for a solar lantern, which is about 3,000 rupees, it is easily affordable to be able to pay back today. And it is within easy reach of many government banks. But you mustn't be extravagant. You mustn't say that, does solar power run my television, run my air conditioning, run my washing machine? No. You are giving them a basic minimum need, which is clean, affordable light. And that light is within your control and affordable. So if you limit your expectations and you don't have such high expectations about improving your quality of life by bringing in all these exotic things that you have in the house, then I think it is affordable and people will buy it. But they will not buy stuff now which is low quality, poor quality. They will buy quality stuff which they know about, which will work. So a solar lantern from China does not last even 3 or 4 months. But the solar lantern that the grandmothers are making lasts for 3 years. So it is easily possible to repay that money from these. So be very clear what your target group is. If your target group is the poorest of the poor, they will go for stuff that they can pay back. But if you have high quality systems, home lighting systems, which are 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatts, 3 kilowatt, then there is a problem about repayment. But that people who are middle class, who can afford it, and some of these people don't even pay back because they think, loan. Lots of problems you have there. But as far as I'm concerned, my target group is the poorest of the poor, and they easily afford it, and they pay back.
Right. Actually, this question struck my mind because in other areas there is frequent load shedding also, and there are students also who need who need power for computer and internet. So it has become a necessity. So that's why this idea came to my mind.
Correct. So, but if we have a computer center in a village which runs off solar, about 20-30 rural youth can use that computer in a village, then it is affordable. You don't have it individual houses, but have a community center where you have a 1 kilowatt, where you can have 2 or 3 computers and the youth can come there and learn and sit for the exams when they want to get a government job or so on. So that is what we are doing right now, having a community center where youth can come and use it at a price, at a very nominal rate.
Yeah. So having a
The
community.
Barefoot College is only working for rural areas and not for urban areas. So I can't give you an urban solution. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So having community center ensures that it is going to be for the necessities at an initial stage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Come to Barefoot College and have a look. Where are you? Are you in Delhi?
No, I'm from Mumbai.
From?
Mumbai.
Not a very good place. Come to the fresh air of Tilonia. Anyone else?
Okay. Okay, Simba Kohli is asking a question. Sir, have you any waste to energy plants like septage plus wet waste into electricity, and would you recommend it?
We have the first plastic and waste-free village in Rajasthan, indeed the India, where people are collecting waste, wet waste and dry waste, and selling them as compost. So if you give me your email, I can send you the film on how we converted very filthy villages into waste and plastic-free villages. We are doing it in 3 or 4 villages now today.
She's also asking about turning it to electricity, like using waste as fuel.
No, but there are some
generation.
But there are some people using pine needles up in Uttarakhand. Have you heard of an organization called Avani? AVANI in Kumaon. You can access them. There's a girl called Rashmi there, and Rashmi and Rajneesh both together run a plant which works off pine needles and generating electricity. So they'll give you much more information on that. Okay?
Okay. Okay, Anand says, yeah, actually they are very inefficient as the mixed waste gives very poor calorific output and releases toxins. Yeah, there has to be a lot of sorting first as to what kind of waste will go into as fuel. That takes manpower and resources. And then yeah, the calorific value also isn't so great. Okay. Any other question? Any other question?
I have exhausted them. Okay, Mandvi.
No, then I have a question. I want to know, I would like to know, because we also work a lot on just energy transition, where one is trying to that people working in the fossil fuel sector get really acquire the skills to go into this new and upcoming renewable energy sector. And because a lot of women lose out when the skill transition happens, when such kind of upscaling of skills or new skill acquisition happens. There is a very strong aspect of gender justice here as well, in terms of economic empowerment of women. How do you think, this solar mamas are one answer to it, but what else can be done to ensure that, the energy transition is just and inclusive?
I think the solar mamas can also be entrepreneurs. We shouldn't only talk to them about solar electricity and becoming solar electrifying villages, but how to start a business, how to open a bank account, how to go about taking a bank loan, how to be able to reach communities and convince them that the long-term answer is solar and not electric generation from the power plants. Decentralized, demystified solutions is the answer today. And I think women are great communicators. Someone told me, what is the most powerful way of communicating today? Is it telephone? Is it television? Is it telegraph? It is tell a woman.
Very nice. Yes.
So I think women are smart. They have a mind of their own and they have a communication language of their own. And I don't think the men are in any way close to hearing how they think and how they speak and how they act. I have learned that in 20 years in the Barefoot College, and I don't even want to know the solution to this mystery. I'm always amazed at the at the improvisation of rural women to be able to pick up the solution and run with it and fly with it. And then you're left far behind. So I think the solution and the answer are the women today of India, the rural women of India, especially for me. Mandvi, have I gone around your question and answered it differently or what?
Kind of, but this will also do because you're talking such nice things about women. The feminist is so good.
Okay.
Okay, Anand has a question.
Where's Anand? Where's Anand?
Where? Anand, we can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Acha, you're on mute right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So Bankar Royji, my question was that human civilization is close to 2 million years, and electricity has been, very, very recent find or invention. Why are we trying to, do you think that we are, looking for electricity to solve all our energy requirements? And do the way we are going, everything is connected to electricity. Is that the only solution and the only source of form of energy? Or what are the kind of multiple energy sources that are being used according to you? Or because then obviously there's going to be a shortfall if everything has to be converted to electricity.
This is a political question.
Okay.
And I am not in a position to answer that with convincingly.
No, my question
because today there's a vested interest in electrifying a village, at least on paper, because there's so many people involved. I'll tell you what happened with me. The Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir at that time when I spoke to him was Farooq Abdullah. And there are 19 villages in Zanskar. So I told Farooq Abdullah, Minister, I would like to solar electrify 10 villages in Zanskar, which is cut off 6 months of the year with snow. He said, Karlo, koi dikkat nahi hai. I said, there are only 19 villages, but I'll do about 3 or 4 and show you how you can solar electrify a village in Zanskar, which I did. 6 months later, the Chief Minister calls me and says, Sab, I cannot allow you to do any more villages. I said, why? I've given you a simple solution. I've given you a non-polluting solution, which is long-term, clean. He said, no, I have a problem. Because for 6 months of the year, they used to transport diesel and kerosene to the generators in Zanskar. And there, everyone was making about 20 crores a year. So I said, look, if I solar electrify 19 villages, I save you 20 crores. But if you do that, Farooq Abdullah says, I'll lose my election, I'll lose my seat. Because there is a vested interest in taking kerosene and diesel 6 months every year now. How has this Bengali come and solar electrified a village and shown that you don't need a diesel generator? You don't need diesel and kerosene to go there because it is all solar electrified. So I had to stop my program, but I learned a lesson that there is always something behind innovation which is life-threatening and which threatens a lot of people. And it is not as simple as just solar electrifying a village. There are so many other socio-cultural problems here that someone has to take into account. And I learned that lesson today. So have I answered your question? Again, I'm detouring on your answers, but I think there was a lesson there that I learned very much. Anyone else?
Yes, there is Shubhankar Ghosh who's raised his hand. Can you please also switch on your video?
Where's Shubhankar?
Yeah, I'm here, sir. Am I audible?
Where are you? Can I see you?
So am I audible?
Yeah.
So actually, I had a question. I hear from Assam, and I'm currently working in CSIR. But I had a question.
Sorry,
Whether yes.
I request you to keep the microphone at the constant position.
Okay.
If you're moving it, the sound is getting a little cut. Thank you. And can you repeat the name of the organization or the university? I didn't get it.
It's CSIR NIST.
CSIR?
NIST. 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 Okay. So I had a question because the weather is not predictable here. So there won't be a constant sunlight. For example, if we are talking about in a rural village. So can we consider maybe having an integrated approach if you talk about rural implementation of solar panels and solar lights? And how can we go about it? If you have some inputs on that, that would be good.
Which part of Assam are you?
So I'm currently in Jorhat.
Jorhat. So presently, right now, we are selecting 12 grandmothers from Silchar district and from Hailakandi district. And we have a training center up in Sikkim, where we shall start training these women to be solar engineers. But because you have a weather problem there of rain and very little sun, we are suggesting that they have a 40-watt panel where you can at least preserve the energy through the battery for at least 3 or 4 days during the if there is a rainy season. And we also suggest, coupled with the 40-watt panel, as far as Assam is concerned, with a solar lantern, which you can also charge with the 40-watt panel. So wherever the conditions are not suitable for sunlight for at least 300 days of the year, you have to increase the number of solar panels so that they can, at least in the battery, you can preserve it for 3 or 4 days without problem.
So, so the answer, will that be good to have an integrated system? So family can also run a section of their power, can drive a section of their power from the electrical grid, and it can be subsidized with the solar panel. Or
it could be done. It could be done. It is feasible, practical, and I think this improvisation is possible. It is possible. Sure.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Simar was asking again about battery recycling. I think Simar Bankaroji had said earlier that he doesn't have very pocket-friendly answer to this question now, because it's still a technology which is being studied and researched upon. So, yeah.
In the solar unit, the battery is the weakest link.
Yeah.
It is not the panel. It is not the charge controller. It is not the lights. It is the battery.
Okay. And Nikhil, you have another question. Why don't you ask it yourself?
Sir, can we integrate dynamo with some solar panel so that if there is no light, they can cycle or treadmill or something, do something which will improve their health also, and it can integrate with the solar connection?
All combinations are possible. I think one has to try it and see if it is possible that you can generate some through the cycle that you were suggesting. Yes, it's possible. I have seen it before being done, but it's quite a lot of cycling that needs to be done there. I don't know how much time you have to cycle for how many hours. But it is a solution. It is a low-cost solution, and people are doing it because when you are under such pressure, you come up with desperate solutions which work. And I think I've seen these cycle dynamos which produce electricity. I've seen them. I've seen them in Africa. Everyone does that in Africa.
Yeah, I think Nikhil and Pranav should get together, because Pranav wants a community kind of a place where solar electricity is produced. So, you know,
anyone who's asked me so many questions, his first job is to come to Tilonia and spend a couple of days here. And let me get him to meet some of the extraordinary women here. Just to convince you that there's hope in this country of alternative low-cost solutions which are based entirely on women and not men. How's that, Pranav? You going to come? No, I can see silence there. Bombay has actually prevented a lot of people from going out of that city. They're too much in love with that city. Come on, go and do some work outside in a village and just see what it's like. You know, when you are used to 100 miles per hour lifestyle, and all of a sudden you come to a village which is 0 miles per hour, it is a psychological shock because you feel that you're doing nothing, which is not true because you're learning you're learning patience, you're learning tolerance, you're learning how to work with people. This is a great learning exposure. A village, don't think of it as a hardship. Think of it as a learning experience. Okay, and you're still young. This is the time when you make mistakes. This is the time when you go out and start looking at crazy ideas and make it work or don't work, doesn't matter, give it a shot. This is what I keep on telling the youth in this country, and very few people take it on. What's wrong with our youth? In our time, we used to be mad. We used to go into the villages and stick it there and find out whether we have it in us to do it.
Sure, sir.
I have a complaint against the youth of this country. What to do? Why aren't they a bit more energetic, improvised, courage, guts? Kahan gaya wo guts?
Yeah, actually, most of the...
I can see Rahul laughing. Why is he laughing? Come on, Rahul, what is it? Have I said something wrong?
No, I'm laughing because you have hit the nail on the head.
Which head? Which nail? I can't see it having any effect on anybody.
Young heads. But a lot of people, Bankarji, a lot of people are writing in the chat that they would like to know the location of Barefoot College. I would say just...
Tilonia is a small village in Ajmer district, 100 kilometers from Jaipur. And we have a campus. People can stay here as long as you want. And lots of things to see and lots of things to learn and lots of things to take back home. So this is an open invitation to all of them who is on your chat, that they come and spend some time. Open mind. Open mind is very important.
Sure, sir.
And if it is...
Okay, let's see, Mandvi,
Yes, sir.
let's see how many people take it on. I'll let you know how many people actually write to me and say, I'm coming.
In fact, I definitely, this is Jan, and I definitely would like to come to your place. If you could seriously share your coordinates, I would like to learn more. I missed a small part of your session, but yes, I would like to explore.
Just Google Barefoot College and you'll get...
Barefoot College, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The location.
And if you can suffer it, I gave a TED talk. Look at the TED talk on the Barefoot College.
Wow. No, I grew up in a village myself, so I don't think I'll suffer. I'm sure I'll enjoy.
Then why haven't you gone back?
I think I should. You're right.
This is a step backwards if you've left your village and not gone back.
I agree with you.
You know when His Holiness the Dalai Lama came to Tilonia, first time spending a night in a village, he went and saw the Solar Mamas, he saw everybody, and then he said something very profound. He said, now that you've shown the Barefoot College working in practice, let's see if the experts can make it work in theory. How's that?
Wow. That was really awesome.
Isn't it?
Wow.
Coming from Dalai Lama, it's a blessing. He said, you guys are streets ahead. What are you doing? How come other people are not listening to what you're doing? It's so simple. It's the simplicity of it all that is the attractive part, not the complicated part.
Right.
Mandvi,
so
I've
once
taken
again,
enough of your time.
Barefoot College.
Sorry?
This is Barefoot College in Ajmer. Which village?
Near Tilonia.
How do you spell it?
Tilonia.
Fine. Is there a website or something where there is?
I think if you Google Bunker Roy, you might get something.
You will, yes. If you
Definitely.
Google Bunker Roy, you will get lost.
Sure.
And Bankarji, if it is okay, we can also share your email ID. A lot of people are
My
asking.
email ID, my mobile number, just share it. I've got no problem. I know very, very many people will not come, so that's why I'm sharing it.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. I think people want to come to Tilonia and talk to me in person. Probably that's the mood.
I can assure you, you will get 3-star comfort. So that's a blessing for you guys. I think the comfort is very important. You don't want to go in the middle of nowhere and find you have to go and squat outside in a village. That is what scares a lot of people. Come.
The volunteers Amrita and Hitesh have shared all the coordinates of Barefoot College in the chat. You can please take them down. Yeah, and we'll definitely provide you all the coordinates. We can have more, interaction. Like the interaction is more important. All this details will definitely provide you for the thing.
I welcome anyone who wants to come, young, old, man, woman, rich, poor, come over. It's a just to see what a solution, a low-cost, innovative, alternative solution is possible.
Yeah,
that is what you have to see.
Bankarji, if I may add, I was teaching at Doon School from 94 to 98.
That's a minus point.
I know. Shomi was the headmaster. I think you should get the Doon School kids to come to Tilonia and keep them there for a month. We'll start with that, I guess.
There is. I have two rules here. I don't invite Doon School. I don't invite St. Stephen's College.
Okay. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of unlearning and learning. But as an environmental science teacher, we did a lot.
Do you realize that I'm the only Doon School and St. Stephen's College boy who's lasted 50 years in a village? And that's a real reflection on the educational system today. It's a very bad reflection on the educational system today, that we can't produce people who want to improvise, want to do something new, want to fail. What is wrong with our people today? I just don't know what to say. Communication is a major problem here. So Doon School is not my best idea of the good education. I've stopped everyone on their tracks, I think. Okay, thank you, Mandvi. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to share some ideas.
No, thank you so much. I think we didn't do justice by keeping your session for just just half an hour or so. But I think.
But I haven't had too many questions, so I'm a bit disappointed with the group here. There should be 10,000 questions. Oh, you can write to me, bankar.roy1@gmail. Write to me, not a problem. Anyone can write.
Yes, I think a lot of us will be writing to you. A lot of us will be contacting you because there's still so much.
First see that useless TED talk and then you can write to me.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time and also prompting all of us to ask questions. I think this whole culture of asking questions is kind of dying in our country, and we need also to revive this culture of ask questions and keep challenging the norms and keep.
So just to let you all gentlemen know, we are celebrating our 50th year next year. So we will be inviting all of you to come. It's in Delhi in the Triveni Kala Sangam. We're going to show 50 years of work that we've done since 1972. Half of you weren't born then, right? Correct? Yes, I don't think half of you were born. Anyway, you're all welcome to come. But write to me, please. I'll be very happy to respond. Anyone?
Okay.
Mandvi, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Bankarji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bankarji.
It was a pleasure and so educational to listen to you.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you, Mandvi, for asking me.
Thank you so much,
Thank you again.